So I think the hardest part about when I started the From Hurt to Heal series, talking about my life and growing up, was actually breaking those generational curses. And for me, the generational curses included saying that something was wrong with me, because from the people that I had in my family, for the most part, that I was around a lot, they always act like there was nothing wrong with them at all. No problems, no issues. And usually if somebody doesn't talk about things or act like they have an issue or a problem that should be addressed, then of course that makes you feel like, you're basically like them. If you do have anger or hurt or resentment or any type of trauma, you're really not supposed to talk about it, because that's just how it's supposed to be. Your life is supposed to have that trauma. It's supposed to have that hurt. It's supposed to have that pain. And that's not true at all. I look at my children now, 3, 5, and 13, and they've been very fortunate to not really deal with a lot of loss. I've been trying to give them as much stability as possible. That's, very key in my husband and I raising them, because we had to deal with a lot of instability and a lot of uncertainty, and that gives kids stress, So looking at them and the way that they're growing up, it's just like, it is hard to, kind of make sure that they're okay, but it's worth it. You know what I mean? So it's not worth being at the club every weekend, making sure I get in before 12 so I don't have to pay, and hanging out with people that I wind up drinking with and smoking with or doing drugs with, and then I have an issue with them, and then I come in the house and take the anger out on my kids. It's not worth it. But it's worth it when they wake up in the morning and they just know mommy's going to make them waffles. Mommy's going to make sure that they have breakfast. Mommy is going to make sure that they have lunch to go to school, so they don't have to worry about, those type of things, or clean clothes, just the little things that they don't have to worry about that I had to worry about. And I'm so grateful that I'm able to give that to them. So that was the first thing. I had to realize that the way that I grew up was not good, and I shouldn't have had to grow up that way. That was the first thing. The second thing was to know that in me sharing what I went through, it has nothing to do with anybody else, okay? Whether it is the people who caused me to be a victim, the people who neglected me, the people who took advantage of me or used me, this is not about them. This is about me. I'm embracing what I've gone through in my story, because I know it's going to help others. So even though they may be talked about, it's not about them at all. This is about me. And I had to realize that, I have to finally put myself first and make sure that I can say things out loud. And I realized for me, when I'm dealing with something, I'll keep it to myself. And until I can process it and talk about it without being emotional, or as emotional as I can be, then I don't share. I keep it to myself until I can give myself that. That's one of my defense mechanisms. I got to be strong for myself. So just thinking about those things, and when I wanted to start sharing stuff, I realized that I was definitely on the right path, because, that's kind of what people do when they write a book. And instead of me writing a book, I want to actually talk about my stuff and meet people face to face that have been through, similar situations. A lot of people didn't have their father there, but it was more so that the father is not there and I don't know anything about him. It's not like he tried to come in and out and pop in and out, every now and then to try to see me, on the weekends, but my mother didn't let him. It wasn't any of that. My story is my story. And I realized that the story that I have, it helps me on the journey with my children. My son is from a previous relationship, and I don't care to make my son suffer because I want to be right, or because of the relationship that I had with his father, and now that's no longer, so I want my son to not see him. That's not what this is about. I make sure that my son knows his father's family, because when he gets older and has questions, I can't answer all the questions, because there's going to be questions that he wants to personally ask him, and I don't want him to ask the question of why weren't you there when he could have been there. and it was me blocking it. That's not a good feeling. So for those people out there that are doing that, you have to selflessly say, my child is important, and as long as there's no harm coming to the child, allow the other parent to become a part of their life. Because if the person is bad the way you think, or not good for them, or going to let them down, let the child go through that, but be their support through that. And that way the child has their own story with the person. It could be the same story that you have with them, but let the child have that, because somebody let you have that with them, right? You were in a relationship with them, you had a child with them, whether it's a man or a woman, because there are non-custodial parents that are women that are just as bad for their children as the deadbeat fathers that don't see them, they don't take care of them, they only want to get them on like holidays and birthdays. It happens. It doesn't only happen to women who have their children. It happens to men that have their children too. But to me, the best advice I can give is do not block your child from having a relationship with the other parent if the other parent is trying, and if there's no harm to come to that child. Because at the end of the day, when a child gets older and y'all are sitting down and the child is a teenager or in their 20s and y'all start talking, the child will let you know how they feel about things. The child will express to you, how it was to be in that situation with that parent, and how a lot of times, they were let down or they had a good time. They could have a totally different relationship than you have with them. This is their life to live. We're there to guide and support and protect, but we cannot control. Okay? And I feel like in my situation, my mother partially controlled it, and it's probably because it was an abusive situation. So I can understand where she's coming from on that. However, my father should have looked into working on bettering himself so he can be there for his children. Because at the end of the day, his time was cut short. He wound up dying when I was 14. He got hit by a car and he died from the car accident. So I literally knew him for 8 months. So the 8 months of time that I have from knowing him out of my 14 years that he was on the planet at the same time as me, it doesn't add up. Even if it would have been 8 years, that's still not, a lot of time. It would have been something, it would have been better. But with the 8 months that I have, I still feel like I don't know who he is. And I don't get answers from other people. I don't even ask anymore. I feel like I shouldn't have to ask. I feel like people should be grateful that they have the information to be able to give me so I can know, who he was. But that's another story. Well, I'll do another video on that another day. However, in doing this Hurt to Heal, I know that this is part of the journey that I have. I know that this is part of what I'm going to do to help others heal, to help others realize within themselves that they have things that have happened to them and they need to turn them into a lesson. Don't let it run your life. Don't let it be that, you always wind up being the one that gets hurt and gets, played because that's just you. No, it doesn't have to be you. You can decide that you want better for yourself at any given time, and then you work towards that. Just like you work towards a better body in the gym, you have to work towards mentally and emotionally and spiritually being better. So the choice is yours. You can start today if you haven't started already, but you got to start. So I'm out. Oh, my sweater. This is my little homie sweater that I love to put on, just out and about right now. About to go and pick up some stuff for today, Sunday. Got to make some dinner for my family. And I just wanted to do this video because I felt in my heart that somebody needed to hear the things that I've said. I hope y'all have a good day.